Yo, yo, what's up? This is Kutmasta Kurt, former DJ at KUSP 88.9 FM in Santa Cruz, Solid Funk Radio Show. Started that in 1985. 1988, moved on to KZSU Stanford 90.1 FM, The Drum Show with my man Kevy Kev. At the same time, I was DJing on KHDC Fat Fridays with my man, the Verbal Technician, and also occasional co-hosting with my man Jason D, the Wise Up Show at KZSC, University Santa Cruz. Other than that, I used to DJ a lot of parties around the university campuses, house parties, frat parties, all kinds of crazy stuff, and even wound up promoting a bunch of my own shows, a big MC battle at the Vets Hall downtown Santa Cruz, all kinds of parties at the Eagles Halls, and all kinds of various events like that. And later on, I honed my skills and became, I guess what you might call a world-renowned producer and DJ. So in late '82, I went on a trip with my mom to New York, and on the streets, I was seeing people breaking and popping, and I was like, "Yo, what is this? This is crazy. This is cool. I want to do this." And when I got back to Santa Cruz in the spring of '83, it was just starting to catch on in my junior high school. I was like, "Oh, that's that thing they were doing in New York." I didn't know what it was called, and then I found out, and I tried to do it myself, although I wasn't very good, and I hurt myself a bunch of times. But the music and the culture and everything about it was just exciting. It was fresh. It was just something fun. So I found out about Bubba G. Scotch's radio show on KUBO, and I used to tape his radio show and listen to the music. I really got into the music side of things, and later Super Soul Sundays with guys like Mike Nardone. I liked Mike. He reminded me of myself a little bit, and so I used to go and listen to their shows and try to find the records they were playing and buy those records with my allowance or whatever money I was scrambling up at the time. And I thought to myself, man, I want to be like them. So I think in late '83 I was buying a few of the records I was hearing on Bubba G. Scotch's radio show, etc., and just trying to scratch them on like the home turntable system, pissing my mom off, like, "What are you doing to my turntable?" And I didn't know what I was doing. I was just experimenting, and finally I figured out I had to get two turntables. So I got two mismatched turntables and a realistic mixer from Radio Shack, and that was the beginning of me as a DJ right there. Yeah, so club culture was almost like a community center type of place, right in the center of downtown Santa Cruz, across from the Metro Center. And I used to go there, and when I was still attempting breakdancing back in the days, and stand and watch the DJ, and local MCs used to rock the mic. There was even a guy out in the front who used to like blow bubbles all over the street. And there was a small record store I got a few gems at. And but basically, what I remember the most about club culture is Bubba G. Scotch. So I was trying to get records any way I could. I would take the bus sometimes to San Jose, or get my mom to give me a ride somewhere to get some records. And I was DJing on my mismatched turntables, and she asked me, "Hey, do you think you want to do something like this on the radio?" I said, "Hell yeah, how do I do that?" And she said, "Well, I have a friend who has a show on the local station KUSP. I'll ask them who you need to talk to." And so she found out who I needed to talk to, and I made a demo tape in the end of '84. I sent it in the beginning of '85, maybe spring or so. I went in for an interview, and I started my first radio show, I think summer of '85, right after my 15th birthday. So I finally wound up really meeting Bubba G. Scotch in around mid '86. He was searching for a new station to call his home, and he fortunately ended up coming to the station I was at, KUSP. And so two hip-hop DJs on one station. Our station, being a community-supported station, also worked a lot with the Cultural Council in the Santa Cruz County, and we decided to throw two cultural events, which we called Big Party '87. One of them was in Watsonville at the fairgrounds, and one of them was in Santa Cruz at Santa Cruz High. And they were both simulcast live on the radio. So during my time DJing at KOSP in Santa Cruz, I was introduced to a guy named King Shamik, a DJ from San Jose at the time. Later went on to DJ with Twin Hype and other big projects like that. But he was a co-host of my show, and he also introduced me to a guy named Rockmaster Mark Ski from the Members Only crew, and they also had a radio show at KZSU Stanford. So I wound up in '88 doing a lot of guest spots DJing at KZSU, and as things kind of wound down at KOSP, I ended up moving over there and started doing the show Sunday nights, The Drum. A funny story was about maybe 6 months into doing the show, a guy shows up named Kev, and he's like, "Hey, you guys are doing my radio show. I was in France as an exchange student. I just got back," or some story like that. And so we're like, "All right, cool. You'll be the MC, I'll be the DJ." Todd T, Mark Ski's brother, was part of the show. Many other people came in and out of the mix, and I wound up DJing at KZSU until '94 when I moved to Los Angeles. So at that time, when I wanted to do my productions, like I said, I was relying more or less on other people's studios to get a better sound. The 4-track was cool from Santa Cruz High, but a local friend of mine, Michael Ortega, had a studio that I did some stuff in. Jonathan Brown, the bass creator, he had a little setup. I did some stuff, and I had been DJing, at University of Santa Cruz parties and saving my money, working at delivering furniture. So by like late '88 or so, I finally had enough money and invested and bought a studio and started the Rapid Fire studio, Rapid Fire Recordings. So once I finally got my equipment and got the studio set up, I started recording like a madman. And with Red, Black, and Green, for instance, we got our first record together, Serious as Cancer, back with Feel the Groove, came out in 1989. We put out, me and MC Groove, This Is for Suckers EP in 1990. I did a bunch of recording with a local guy from Watsonville, MC Time. None of that stuff ever came out. But another group that I worked with at the time, Friends of MC Style, was a group called Zero Tolerance. And Zero Tolerance's DJ was a guy named Motion Man. So that's how I met Motion Man. So I would say it's hard to pinpoint a certain song or album or whatever that was my biggest or favorite. So, but right here, this is an album called The Redneck Olympics. It's a compilation album featuring remixes and production I did with Linkin Park, Beastie Boys, Dilated, Cool Keys, Motion Man, all these great artists. That's me behind the mask. My man Scotty Z took this picture. He did a lot of my album cover pictures. Big ups to Scotty Z. And yeah, make sure you get a chance to check it out, Redneck Olympics. So yeah, I must say hip-hop's been good to me. I've been grateful for the opportunities I've had. Touring-wise, I've always had a travel bug, so I've been all over Europe, been to Australia, been to various parts of Asia. Yeah, have not yet been to South America. I'm on my way. I'm coming sometime. And have not been to Africa except for Tenerife, if that counts. I don't know. It's just an island off the coast there. But one day I'll make it down to Antarctica and rock it for the penguins.
Now, Jason, when we did a video shoot with him, he said, you got to really meet this guy that, that really knows a lot about hip-hop. He's a real good DJ and everything like that. So that's how I met Kutmasta Kurt. Kirk. That's another thing. They always tease me because I have a New York accent. I guess it's gone now. No, I don't think it's gone. But I always say Kirk when his name is not Kirk with a K. It's Kurt with a T. Well, Kutmasta Kurt. I met him through Jason D. And the way I met him is he told me about him at his show, and then I had to go do a show, do a shoot with Search, with MC Shirts, and right after they broke up Third Base. They sure did. So I called Jason, asked him did he want to go, and told him to ask Kurt to go, because I knew Kurt was, he really knew a lot about hip hop and everything, and to come with us, and that's how we went up there. And that's it. And that's how I knew Kurt from that. From that way, we started Fat Fridays. Now, Fat Fridays came to me because I said, oh, man, let me start theming the show. Because now I got these 5 days, and I didn't like it to be 5 boring days. And I remember me being from New York, there was always the host, you know, there was always Marley Marl and, you know, so-and-so, Red Alert and so-and-so. So I wanted, you know, I wanted to set up like that. So it was a Verbal Tech and Kutmasta Kurt.
So Kutmasta Kurt, I go back to the phone call and him knowing who I was. Like, I called from Poetic Groove and he was at, I'm pretty sure he was doing both Stanford and UC Santa Cruz at that point. And he's like, Mike Nardone from KSVB? I was like, on the other end, sort of like, oh crap, who knows me? You know what I mean? Like, you know me? He goes, oh yeah, I'm from Santa Cruz, and da-da-da. And we start talking, and we built like this great relationship off of that phone call. But Kurt's awesome. I mean, first of all, if you haven't seen, and you have to get the MC Groove and the back cover, because that's like classic Kurt b-boyed out in like 80, I don't know when that was, 87 maybe? But Kurt as a person has been a great friend to me and helpful, like, beyond belief. Besides, like, you know, showing me how to use ASR 10 before I bought it. He's like, okay, come on, da-da-da tutorial, thank you, all right, respect. But we used to live like 2 buildings apart from each other, or like 3 buildings apart from each other. So we'd always be hanging out, watching basketball or playing basketball or just hanging out in general. And obviously when Ems left, he took over for Ems and DJ'd and helped me co-host the joint, and obviously, or not obviously, has filled in for me at Kazzeo over the years, and unarchived some stuff for me, and shit, that fool recorded the whole AWOL record with me. I think the whole record. And with us, with me, AWOL, and him, and whoever guests we had and everything. I mean, just best guy you ever want to meet.
Yeah, me and Kurt are old friends. Probably my oldest friend. He's been there through a lot of thick and thin, and we've been through a lot. And my earliest memory of him was breakdancing at a friend's house in like 8th grade. And I remember he made a phone call and said, I know this guy, he can bring over pot. And he came over on his BMX bike and he had a shoebox full of weed. He brought it over, and I didn't smoke back then, so they smoked out. And I remember leaving their house, this guy Jeff's house, and I remember leaving, and this loud, like, Africa Bambaataa playing, super loud, and him and Jeff, Kurt and Jeff, just sitting in these chairs, stoned out of their gourd, listening to this loud hip-hop, and that was the first time I ever met him, and I just thought it was such an odd experience. But we became really good friends, and he's opened up a lot of doors for me down here, and he's helped me out, so yeah, what can I say?
Oh man, Kutmasta Kurt. You know, I met Kutmasta Kurt in high school. He was a couple years older than me, but Kutmasta Kurt was like the epitome of the b-boy. You know, he had the fresh bomber jacket. He had the cool Levi's with graffiti down the side. I mean, he was straight up hip hop. And it was probably about a year or so after high school, when I started, working record distribution and whatnot, that I really started to get familiar with Kutmasta Kurt, and I can honestly say he's one of my best friends, not just in radio, not just in the music industry, but just in a regular everyday environment. I mean, Kutmasta Kurt is just a really good dude, and anytime I'm in LA or anytime he's in Santa Cruz, we hook back up and we hang out and just, have a blast, good times. So, Kutmasta Kurt is a hometown hero. He's represented Santa Cruz throughout the world. He's a renowned record producer and frequently booked DJ in, Europe and wherever else around the globe. I mean, Kutmasta Kurt is internationally known, like Melly Mel. So, big up Kutmasta Kurt, man. You're doing us all proud, man. Keep doing your thing.
And there's so many things to say about my buddy Kutmasta Kurt. Kutmasta, man. just love that spirit he has to want to do above and beyond. And I was so proud when I started hearing what he was doing, and I said, man, I love that spirit. You know, we had very similar spirits, you know, but he wanted to do above and beyond, and he searched and he seeked and he accomplished what he wanted to do. Production, I seen it in his eyes when I first met him, and he wanted to do. He just had so much punch, and I love that guy. You know, he always makes me smile for what he's done in the industry. Kept it underground, like he always spoke. You know, he believed in the underground, and I believe in myself. The underground is the true following. Everything above that is extra. You know, the underground will always keep you, you know, solid, based, grounded, and I hear of the thing he does worldwide and with his groups and everything that I hear, you know, from what he did earlier with Muhammad on the show, cutting edge with the rap music, cutting edge, man, right on the edge, man. Love that. Production, the groups, people he's interacted with. When I mention his name, people, you know, they pause, and I love that. And knowing that I knew him at a very young age, and that I shared that with him, and he was always willing to give a helping hand to me. He knew that I could do things. He always wanted to see if there was a project that he could help me with, and it almost happened a few times, but you know, I guess we had different roads to go through it. And I'm here in Salinas, and he's worldwide, and I love what you're doing, Kurt. Keep doing it.
Kutmasta Kurt is someone who took the 831, or at the time it was 408, but he took Central Coast and Santa Cruz hip hop and put it out there on vinyl and made it made us all believe that we could do something in hip hop. Kutmasta Kurt with MC Groove and Red, Black, and Green, and he had their music pressed on vinyl. He had tapes at the time pressed up, and this is when nobody was doing that. He had a full recording studio at his house. Everything sounded professional. It sounded pertinent to the time era, and actually was probably a little bit before its time. So Kutmasta Kurt brought that production tip and the know-how of how a record label is supposed to be run to the Central Coast. Kutmasta Kurt has gone on to big things. Having produced for Beastie Boys and Dilated Peoples and Chino XL. A lot of the best MCs out there, Kutmasta Kurt has produced beats for. And it's funny because a lot of people don't even know he's from Santa Cruz. But us old school hip hoppers from the area know Kutmasta Kurt. We know him personally. He's a cool guy. And he really did bring that part of hip hop that none of us were doing at the time. We were creating tapes. We were recording, but everyone was doing it at a different level. We were doing it on a 4-track with a cheap microphone. You go to Kutmasta Kurt's house, he had an EPS-16 and an analog 8-track recorder. And then he had an ASR-10, and then being able to go to his house, go to his studio, and record real music that was not real music, but be able to record on quality equipment was a big deal. And then sometimes you'd be there and he'd have Cool Keith hanging out at his house in Santa Cruz, and his mom there talking about the first time she took Cool Keith to see redwood trees in Santa Cruz. So it was definitely, Kurt definitely brought a whole different level of the game to Santa Cruz hip hop. And then when he moved on and became, I don't want to say became Hollywood, but when he moved on and ended up moving out to SoCal and setting up shop in Hollywood, he still stayed true to his roots. His beats are still dope today, and he's created some classic hip-hop beats, and I'm proud to say that he's someone that I know. He's one of my mentors, and he's from the Central Coast, which is where I come from.
My comments on Kutmasta Kurt. I mean, initially it started where he came up to the show. He was promoting records. You know, similar age. We hit it off. Actually started hanging out. I mean, all the time. You know, pretty much every dance I did up at UCSC or did in town. Kurt was there, backed me up. You know, also DJ'd or whatever, and essentially became one of my best friends. And actually was the best man at my wedding. Kurt got a record deal to produce an album for Kool Keith, and lived in LA, and I went and spent a week with Kutmasta Kurt and Kool Keith. So if you ever listen to the Dr. Octagon album, you'll hear a song called Technical Difficulties. I'm speaking Spanish on that record. I wish I could explain how that happened, but it kind of had a lot to do with things like that. And so Kutmasta Kurt was if I had to just sum it up, he was probably the most influential person on the sound of the Wise Up show, and getting me to really think about the mission of a college DJ or underground hip hop DJ in particular is to play the stuff that people can't hear anywhere else. You only got 2 hours of time, so why would you waste people's time playing something they can hear somewhere else? And man, we lived that. That was the rule. That was the unofficial rule. So thanks, Kurt, for your influence, and bought a lot of records from that guy over the time. And I think there is I just leaked this to Bubba G. Scotch not too long ago. Shouts to Bubba. But Kurt and I made a mega mix one time. It involved about 8 hours, about 8 40-ounces of Old English, and a reel-to-reel tape deck in his bedroom in Santa Cruz. But it's 15 minutes of funk, man. So it's on my MySpace. It's leaked out there from Bubba. Hit me up if you want that. That's definitely some classic Kurt and Jason madness. There's so much to tell, but thank you, Kurt, for being such a big influence on the show.